who has joined us today on Facebook Live or Zoom that hasn't been here until now in January. You might not know what it is and why we're talking about how to use whatever it is. So it is spirit itself. It is life itself. It is the one who is all things. That is all things. Which is all things. And why would I just say how to use it? Well, what we've really been doing is we've been talking about the first 4 sections of the Science of Mind book written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And how to use it is the last of the 4. We've talked about the thing itself, which is it. We've talked about the way it works, which is it. We have talked about what it does, which is it. And today we're talking about how to use it. Now, the very idea of using our personal use of the divine, of life itself, of creation itself, our personal use, that may be such a foreign idea that it's hard to grasp. Because even though we may have been in this teaching long enough to understand, to be able to assimilate that there is one life that is all life, our assimilation of the fact that since it's all life, it is your life and my life and the life of everything that we know, whether or not it is animate, and always has been and always will be, of everything. That may still feel a little foreign, a little uncomfortable, because how can I be that? How is it that I can be that? I still make mistakes. At least in my mind, I do. I still say I'll do something and then I don't get it done until later than I said I would. I still forget to call someone back, or forget an appointment, or just forget. And whether I'm talking about myself or these words are ringing true for someone else who is online with us today or who will listen to these words later, it doesn't matter. We are the ones who judge ourselves. And if by some chance we grew up with a way of believing, a theology, a teaching, a dogma that said that there's separation, that we are these small, rather insignificant beings, and we have to behave in a certain way, we have to think in a certain way, we have to speak in a certain way in order to glean God's favor. And what Ernest Holmes discovered in his exploration of all of the great teachings of the world is that we are, and everything is, because there is only one, we are that life. It expresses through us and as us and in us and for us and with us. And we do the same in and as and through and for it. So what difference does that make? Well, let me tell you. It makes a big difference. Because allowing ourselves to embody not the idea, because it's so much bigger than an idea. Embody the actuality that there is only one life, and therefore it must be my life too. And it must be the life of my trees and the birds that come into the yard, and it must be the life, the original life of a table that I sit at, and in ways that I cannot fully grasp, it must be everything that I look at, everything I touch, everything I use. And because there is only one, because I am that, and that is I, then every activity that I participate in, everything that I do, I am using divine activity as my fuel. Every choice I make. Now, what if the choice that I make isn't such a good one? Anybody ever made a choice that wasn't such a good choice? Ever? It's all right. Because that life is living, please listen to these words. I know I'm saying them again and again and again, and it's for a reason. Because that life is living in and through and as us, its experience of our choice is just an experience. There is no judgment about it. There is no sudden withholding of provision or possibility because we made a wrong turn. It just makes the wrong turn as us, and experiences making the wrong turn with us, through us. And my wrong turn is not going to be the same as somebody else's, because we are each unique creations. So again, Why am I emphasizing oneness? Why am I emphasizing this incredible unification that is the truth of who we are and how we are, and the possibilities that are just laid out before us, whether we can see them or not. I'm emphasizing this because it makes how to use it, how to work with it, how to intentionally align so completely with that innate capacity that is our own and your own and their own and its own. So nobody gets more and nobody gets less. There's one. And it is all. So this idea of how to use it, what in the world does that mean? What do you mean use it? I can barely grasp, I'm speaking for someone who is listening to this, I can barely grasp the possibility that all that I am is the same as the universe and the cosmos and spirit and God and Allah and Jehovah, and that's all that I am. And now you're going to tell me I can use it? I am. So at the beginning of this section, Ernest Holmes writes, there's going to be a couple of things I'm going to read from this section because they're just so good I can't help it. He writes, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. So we think about it and we talk about it and we read about it and we listen about it and we consider it and we write about it on Facebook and or Twitter or Instagram or whatever our thing is. But when do we practice? When do we think about all that we are and all that might be possible before we make a choice? That's a practice. That is a spiritual practice. And what are you spiritually practicing? You're spiritually practicing spiritual thought. Okay, now, I know that now that I've brought the word spiritual into the picture, we may again feel some of the tugs or tides from past teachings, from past experiences, where there was that which was spiritual and that which wasn't. And you know what? If those beliefs work for you, awesome. If they are enhancing your life and expanding your good and and filling you with a love you never could have imagined, great. Great. You will never hear me say that science of mind is the only way. It is a way. Which reminds me I was going to do this later, but now seems the perfect time. A very precious person in our world made his transition this past weekend. And Thich Nhat Hanh would have been the first to say that Buddhism isn't the way, it's a way. That loving kindness is not the way, it's a way. That compassion is not the way, it's a way. I was listening to part of a interview that he did with Oprah Winfrey. And it was the first time they had met. I don't even know if they met ever again after that. And I was not surprised by, but struck by his humility. And how he viewed and valued everyone's contribution to how life works. And so it seems only right that we honor him. And hold his contribution in our highest reverence. Had he, and maybe he did, I don't know, had he read this line from Ernest Holmes where the author speaks about too much theory and too little practice, Thich Nhat Hanh probably would have laughed, as he often did, at the simple truth that was reflected by something such as this. You know what? Theory is fine. Theory, too, is a way. But practice is the only way that will actually show up in our life as positive change, as change for the better, as change in the way we mean. And that's where spiritual thought comes in. Because spiritual thought has no evidence. Unlike rational thought, which depends on evidence, relies on evidence, spiritual thought has no evidence. Spiritual thought is based on the degree, listen to these words now, the degree to which our faith, I'll say, the degree to which our faith in there being only one life, and that life being our life, and therefore there being no separation, the degree to which we have faith that that is the truth of our being. As our faith grows, and I'm very intentionally not using the word belief, because belief usually also is based on evidence. It's based on what we know. It's based on what we've experienced. Faith is not. Faith is based on our assimilation, our being able to embody, to take in, to live as this, for instance, way of understanding that we can then intend something and we can make our statement of intention as a spiritual mind treatment or just on its own, which is also a way. Release it to a fulfillment that we know is unfolding already because we have spoken our word. Now, why does that make a difference? Well, because if we don't use our voice, if we don't speak our truth, then, like most other expectations of mind reading, we don't experience the change that we are seeking. Claiming it, knowing. Claiming it is one piece. Knowing goes with claiming it, but they are, it's like stringing pearls. They go together and they're each their own step. Claiming it, knowing. What's the next step? Gratitude. Gratitude. One of my favorite gratitude stories ever. An example of exactly what I'm talking about. So, a little girl was just crazy nuts about this pink Schwinn bicycle that she wanted for Christmas. You know, the kind with the tassels off the handlebars and the whole thing. And she would go to the bicycle store and she would visit that bicycle, and she was just in love with this bicycle. And it crossed her mind that if she told her grandmother that that's what she wanted for her birthday, that she would get it. because her grandmother always asked her what she wanted for her birthday. She told her, and she always got what she asked for. So she had both faith and belief. Can you see that? She had both faith and belief. She had evidence and she just had unwavering faith in her grandmother. Now, how do I know that she had faith and belief? Because the fact that she had some belief mixed into the equation was the reason that periodically, after she told her grandmother she wanted this pink bicycle for Schwinn bicycle for her birthday, that periodically she'd call her grandmother and she'd say, I just want you to know that I still want the pink Schwinn, that I haven't changed my mind. And then her grandmother would assure her that she knew, and she knew which bike it was, and she didn't need to worry. And then she'd call her grandmother and she'd say, you know, my birthday's getting closer, and I don't know if they're going to have that bicycle, how long they're going to have that bicycle, for you to get it for me. And her grandmother would assure her again not to worry, that she had it handled. So her birthday comes, and of course she gets the bike, right? Why is this one of my favorite examples of what it is that I'm talking about how to use it? You know, everybody who's taken foundations has heard about having the faith to plant a seed for something, and then once it starts sprouting, needing to pull it up to make sure that it's actually growing. Which is, I think I'd call that iffy faith. Iffy faith. Because if it's still growing, then I'll leave the rest of them alone until they mature. Except that maybe I won't. You know, maybe the weather gets harsh or takes some kind of a weird turn, like that ever happens. And so then I'll pull up another one just to make sure that they're growing. And that's what she was doing with her phone calls to her grandmother. And yet her grandmother kept reassuring her that she had this. She had this handled. We don't always hear the reassurance that is being transmitted to us or through us. We don't always feel that reassurance because there are so many examples, there's so much evidence in our life that something might go sideways or something might take too long or whatever the case may be. And so there's, you know, there might be these little bits of doubt. But that's not a spiritual thought. A spiritual thought is, okay, we have this work to do. I'm going to claim for myself, I'm claiming for myself this outcome. And I'm going to be grateful in advance because I know that it's assured. How do I know it's assured? Because life responds by corresponding. It is done unto us as we believe in faith. The table is already set. In fact, whatever it is that we're claiming, it already is done somewhere in the everywhere. And I'm not just talking about our universe, I'm talking about the all of everywhere. It's done somewhere. It's just a matter of delivery. That's how to use it. That is how to develop such a relationship with this capacity that we are, that we have, that we live anyway. And to focus it in such a way and be aligned with it in such a way that there is no doubt. I speak my word and it is done. And I release it in gratitude to its fulfillment by means of the law of mind, divine mind, all mind. And I let it be. And I let it be. I don't make phone calls. I don't yank up the carrot. I stay in gratitude and I let it be. And so it is.